Jersey presentation was severely delayed. For the second day running, Mark Cavendish came in with the autobus outside the time limit, and for the second day running it was too big for the riders all to be kicked out. The difference this time was that Jose Joaquin Rojas was in there with him.
Are you happy with the way it went?
Could have done without the problems.
Cadel, Andy was trying to speak to you on the way out. What was he saying?
Oh, I think he wanted me to ride.
Yeah.
They're in two for yellow. I'm alone. I rode enough in the wind yesterday. Which way are we going, Trudy?
We're going to go round to the
42 kilometres tomorrow to make up 57 seconds. That's always been the game plan, Cadel.
I've been in the same position twice before and I failed twice before, so my odds aren't that great.
Qué orgullo de campeón hoy, he hecho todo para ganar esta etapa.
Bueno, pues sí, hombre, para ganar la etapa, también un poco para disfrutar de la bici, ¿no? Para ganar la etapa igual hubiera sido mejor ir a rueda y nada más, pero bueno, lo que he pensado en todo momento era en disfrutar de la bicicleta, ¿no? Yo en ese sentido estoy muy contento. Para mí me daba igual hacer el quinto que hacer el 20, entonces en ese sentido he disfrutado de la bicicleta, no he conseguido la victoria de etapa, pero muy contento.
¿Y ahora para el podio es posible?
No, está muy lejos de cara a los otros corredores. He visto un poco así los tiempos, está muy lejos.
Muchas gracias, Alberto. Gracias. Congratulations, quelles sont belles ces images avec la famille, mais quelle journée incroyable.
Oui, c'est incroyable. J'ai hâte d'aller à l'hôtel pour un peu me reposer parce que la course elle n'est pas finie, mais même si là j'ai rempli un gros objectif. Mais bon là, voilà, j'espère, je sais que ça va être dur de garder ce maillot, mais voilà, je viens de gagner l'Alpe d'Huez, je vais savourer un petit peu maintenant. Voilà, je vais aller me reposer un peu.
Quel passage de relais, Thomas perd le maillot, mais vous, après 25 ans, après Bernard Hinault, vous gagnez ici, c'est la légende, c'est un monstre sacré du Tour de France.
Oui, je suis très fier de succéder à monsieur Bernard Hinault. On m'a comparé à lui il y a quelques années, et là j'ai fait un tout petit bout de son parcours.
Friday on the Tour, Thomas Voeckler finally waved goodbye to his maillot jaune, and France discovered a new Tour hero, none other than Tommy's Europcar wingman Pierre Rolland. Rolland speeding up the Alpe d'Huez and not only catching two fellows by the name of Alberto Contador and Sammy Sanchez, but sailing past them to take the win on the Alpe d'Huez. What a place to record your first Tour stage. The young Frenchman wasn't the only man celebrating at the Alpe though. Andy Schleck dropping Voeckler to become the new overall leader in the Tour de France. Two things now stand between Andy and victory in Paris. One is keeping his chain on, the other is today's time trial. 42.5 kilometres long, and the question is not so much if Schleck will lose time here, it's how much. And with Cadel Evans in particular less than a minute away and an expert time trialer, this Tour battle is far from over. Stage 20, the final showdown for yellow, coming up live.
And Tony Martin approaching the Flamme Rouge, the 1 kilometre to go kite hanging from the arch there and really motoring on. He's going to give it absolutely everything. He won this time trial here during the Dauphiné Libéré, exactly the same course, 55.28. Carlton, you were commentating on that. There was a mighty ride then. Looks like he's doing the same today.
Yep, he saved himself for this quite clearly. Lots of what might have beens out there, I think, when we know how close Bradley Wiggins pushed him as well, finishing 11 seconds down on Tony Martin back there in the Dauphiné. Tony's doing it again. What would Brad have done?
Well, this is the question. His winning time on the day was 55.28. He's just past the 55 mark now. It is completely dry now. There is no rain out on the circuit. Will he get close to the 55.28 that he posted in the Dauphiné? He's going to be mighty close. He's going to be the fastest time. It'll be interesting to see if he can beat that time. I'm not quite sure he will. It's going to be roughly 55.35, something like that, for Tony Martin, outside of his time for the Dauphiné. 55.33, absolutely nailed that, and isn't he pleased? I am not at all surprised. That is a huge ride, Sean.
A massive performance. You know, looking at the Dauphiné, just a number of seconds off that. It's a real strong ride, and it's going to be impossible to see anybody beat him in this time trial. I cannot see the riders that are out there, and the riders are going to be battling for, you know, the overall victory, a place in the podium. I cannot see them beating Tony Martin.
Tony Martin fastest then, 55.33. Cadel Evans, 57 seconds down on Andy Schleck. This is his day. He has to do it today. He has to pull back the 57 seconds on Andy Schleck and put a massive amount of time into him if he wants to stamp his authority on this year's Tour de France. But I fear that it may be very, very close indeed. And Evans almost shaking, really trying to focus and concentrate. He must know this is his best chance ever, I think, of winning the Tour de France. He's been second twice. He would be the first man from the Southern Hemisphere to ever win the race. And away he goes. Clean start for Cadel Evans. And he's been so strong throughout this Tour de France, getting into his rhythm very quickly. A very good time trialist, slightly less fast than he used to be. But he went round this course in the Dauphiné Libéré. He knows it and did a good time indeed. 56.47. Here's his manager, Jean Lalonde.
So, how's Cadel? Big favourite today. Always complicated, but how is he psychologically? Is he ready to win this Tour? Well, first of all, I don't see him as necessarily the favourite. For him and for me, for the time being, the jersey counts for an awful lot. So let's not just start talking about favourites just for now. But he's going to go out there and give it his best shot on this time trial. That is one thing that's for certain. But we won't know until tonight exactly what's happened. It's a combination of 3 weeks' work, let's not forget that. So if it comes to a very few seconds tonight, it will be amazing tomorrow. Oh, he says, listen, we're not. I don't want to start thinking about that. There's no bonifications on the Champs-Élysées. Whoever is ahead today, I think, will be the winner. But it's what happens on this time trial. But you know, whatever happens, we have done a great job. It's been a superb job by the team. We've taken our responsibilities when we've had to as a team. We've worked very, very hard out here. We're still extremely well positioned, and whatever happens, we're not going to. If it doesn't go our way, we're not going to get down about it. But question: we've seen Cadel doing well in the Alps, having to do a lot of work alone. How is he? Well, you know, he's basically been time trialing up and down mountains, so it's a good preparation for today. He says that kind of mentality comes to the fore. We hope he will do his best. We know he will.
See Alberto Contador here, the red background number of the most combative rider of the day yesterday. This is the closest he's ever been to winning the Tour de France, and he knows it as well. The nerves will be jangling inside of him. Just a little bit of an alteration of the mitt there. Got to keep calm. Both he and Cadel Evans are very nervous, trying to focus now, Andy Schleck. Alberto Contador is out of the picture for a win. It's the biggest day in Andy Schleck's life. He's been the young pretender, psyching himself up. Come on, Andy. 5 seconds to go. And away goes the yellow jersey. A clean leaving of the ramp. And slowly winding it up to speed. Cadel Evans was a little bit faster going off, but that means nothing. He's got to keep it going, get up to the right speed and just roll this along. Sean, this is the biggest day of this young man's life.
Yes, it certainly is, and the pressures on here today is enormous. First of all, it's, you know, down to the individual himself. The team has been doing your work. First of all, the Tour of France victory is out there, you know, to go for, but the team has been working for you for the 3 weeks, and you feel that pressure, not alone the pressures from all the press and from the sponsors, but you feel indebted to the team because they do such a great job, and it's just up to you and you alone out there, and it can be, you know, so difficult. And we've seen riders who totally crack when they get into a situation with the pressures as race leader, and other riders just thrive on it. But again, you know, Schleck have been in there before, Andy has been there before, so he knows the role, and it will be interesting to see what way he will, you know, come through this time trial. And 55 minutes 30, we'll know that answer.
Alberto Contador, his fight is now to improve as much as he can in the general classification. It's going to be almost impossible, I would think, to beat Tony Martin's time of 55.33, but Contador is a very good time trialist, and this course does suit him. The biggest target will be to move up in the GC above Damiano Cunego and even Thomas Voeckler. He needs to take 146 out of Thomas Voeckler to move up to 4th overall. Samuel Sanchez. This is Cadel Evans. Total commitment. Beginning to spin out a little bit on this long descent. Has a quick look down between the bars and tries to tuck in to get as low a position as possible. It'll be interesting to see just how quickly Andy Schleck is going at that point. He has absolutely defied our expectations in the last week, Sean, in his descending ability. Time trial bike's a different proposition, but even so, he's been much better than we expected.
Yes, I think he has, you know, descended quite well, and he has surprised me on some of the descents, the way he has been going. Here today, of course, you know, the descents are very fast, and sometimes you have to be a little bit careful. But in general, with the roads being quite dry at the moment, that is the important thing, and there should not be any difficulty. And I think when you look at the top favourites, there's nobody a real daredevil descender that's going to take huge risk. And when you're in a position in the top number of places in the general classification, you don't push that limit out too much going downhill. As we go through the small towns here, we see Cadel Evans doing that, so I don't think we would hopefully see any problem for the big favourites.
Let's hope not. My apologies, I'd forgotten there was a third Luxembourg winner, of course, Nicolas Fränk. And this is Alberto Contador, who's gone through the first intermediate checkpoint exactly the same time as Cadel Evans. Andy Schleck really having to do as much as he possibly can on this descent. Tucking in 27 seconds is the virtual gap now between the two, and Evans is eating into that lead of 57 seconds. On paper, as we've said before, you would have to put your money on Cadel Evans, but he hasn't got the yellow jersey on his back. Jerome Coppel coming over the line. And Jerome Coppel's done a good job in the last week or two, as they say. And he tucked in as far as he can now.
And Fränk Schleck at 15 kilometres, 55 seconds down.
55 seconds down on
Tony
Martin. Well, he doesn't look very comfortable to me. Andy Schleck getting into that as much of a tuck as he can. This is Fränk. 55 seconds there for Fränk Schleck. And back with Evans. We are, somebody's saying we're having a nightmare with our figures. Actually, that's true, because these graphics have been wrong quite regularly through this time trial. We do have official figures which pop up to us in the commentary booth, but they only give you the times, they don't give you the gaps. You have to do the quick maths yourself, and then you have to find the rider within the list. So it does take some time. I wouldn't believe everything you see on the screen, folks. It has been not particularly accurate. Andy Schleck. There's so many Luxembourgers out on the course today. And Schleck knows he's within grasping distance of hanging on to that yellow jersey. He's not going to let go of it if he possibly can. He'll scrabble and scratch and fight right the way to the very end. And the virtual times that we have out on the road, the last time we saw it, an indication but certainly not super accurate and certainly not official, was that Cadel Evans was now down to a gap of about 20 seconds or so behind Andy Schleck. Back with Thomas Voeckler. And Voeckler was losing time to Alberto Contador out on the road. And I think he realises, Sean, that it's going to be a very difficult task to hang on to fourth spot, even with the class of time trialists who are behind him. Not just, of course, Contador, but Sanchez as well. And Danielson here is a long way back, but Sanchez and Contador certainly could put the mockers on him staying right up there.
Yes, he could be on the thresh, and we can see as Evans is just really eating into Andy Schleck's time here, and 5 seconds, 6 seconds at the moment, and we could see that 15-kilometre mark he had already lost 26 seconds to Cadel Evans, and Fränk Schleck, of course, had lost 24 to Cadel Evans, and that's a lot in 15 kilometres unless they can really push on now from here on. And sometimes the time trials, they get a little bit difficult in the earlier part, but he has to pull all the stops out.
Alberto Contador still riding well. He's going to elevate his position, I feel sure of that. If not above Thomas Voeckler, then certainly above Damiano Cunego. Goes through fastest, third fastest at the second intermediate checkpoint for Alberto Contador. 4 seconds is the virtual time gap that we have here. Again, they may be a few seconds either here or there. We've had some that have been right out, but it's a good indication. The indication being that Cadel Evans is riding himself towards the yellow jersey, Sean, with only 1 day left.
Yes, it's that case at the moment, and now the information will be relayed to Andy Schleck and of course to Fränk Schleck as well. If he can do something, you know, to really keep his place on the general, he's the one who's going to be definitely under big difficulty holding is Fränk Schleck. But Andy Schleck also, it's getting very tight at the moment.
57.06 for Jean-Christophe Perrault. He started the day at 9:42 down. He wants to eat into the time of Pierre Rolland, and it'll be Pierre Rolland we see next. 57.36 was the time by Rein Taramai. 2 seconds only, the gap between the two top men in this year's Tour de France. The battle for the white jersey is still going on. Remember, 1 minute and 33 seconds separates the two. 1 second now. It's almost on the edge at any point. Cadel Evans could be the virtual leader of this year's Tour de France. Evans on the left. On the right, Andy Schleck down to a second. We're just waiting for it. It's just hanging there at the moment, Sean. It's not tipped the balance yet.
No, not tipping the balance, and it was coming down gradually, second by second, for a long time there. Now it's hovering that 1 second, 2 seconds, sometimes 3 seconds, back to 2 seconds again. And I think the information has been relayed to Andy Schleck, and he's just really giving it everything now. And as we come to the second checkpoint, that 27.5 kilometre mark, that's at the top of the second climb of the day, which is 5 kilometres, and there I think we can start looking seriously at the differences.
Neck and neck between Evans and Schleck. It's flipped. Cadel Evans goes into the virtual yellow jersey here. There's a roar outside. It's evenly split between Evans fans and Schleck fans outside. Oh, here comes Pierre Rolland. Well, that's why we didn't see him, because he hadn't finished yet. 58.02, it's 59.07 that he's going to have to fall outside. 1:33 was the gap, and he's not lost that much time. Pierre Rolland will ride into Paris with the Best Young Riders jersey. Rolland finishes in 58.23. and holds on to that white jersey. That was a good ride. They're both very good time trialists. Rain Taramai, I feel, unless there's something completely wrong with that, will have to settle for second place, Sean.
Yes, I think it looks the case, and of course the two of them, real good time trialists, and Pierre Rolland in really good condition in the last number of days, and I was expecting that it would be real difficult for Rain Taramai to take the jersey from him this time trial today.
This is a good time by Tom Danielson. Danielson is riding a very good time trial to finish well up. The best placed man from the United States of America comes over the line in 8th fastest. That's good. Shows consistency right the way through, Sean. He's lying 9th in the overall classification, so he's been there or thereabouts with everything.
Yes, very consistent in this race, and he is a good time trialist as well. Put up a great ride in this Tour de France. I think he was one of the riders we would not have mentioned maybe for a top 10 place, but in the last week, certainly in the Alpine stages, he's been very much there.
41.08 was the time for Contador on the second intermediate time check. 42.05 for Voeckler. He's still hanging on to that 4th place at the moment. This is Evans challenging the time of Tony Martin. Is he? How close is he going to get? He was 2nd fastest at the 15k point. Is he going to remain 2nd fastest? I would think so, with Thomas de Gent at 41.04. He is 2nd fastest. 40.33 for Evans. Fränk Schleck and Andy Schleck still to come, but he's giving it everything. The question is, Sean, can he carry on at this sort of pace?
Well, I think Evans, he knows exactly how to dose his effort in a time trial, make the calculation, and that time we can see there very impressive, because just a handful of seconds down on Tony Martin's time. It is real strong riding here, and Schleck, I'm afraid that he's going to have difficulty coming back, because he is he's playing in his riding pickup now, and unless he can really pull something big out, it looks highly unlikely they can hold on to yellow.
11 second fastest at 7 seconds of that second intermediate checkpoint, but our virtual counter is giving about 32 seconds of an advantage overall in the general classification to Cadel Evans. He's giving this a real stomping ride, Sean, and poor old Andy Schleck is getting a bit of a battering at the moment.
Yes, and the last time checks we had, it looked like he was getting a big battering, unless as we come to this point, the second checkpoint of the day, it is the you know, it is an important point, very important, because we're over all the difficult sections, and that's, you know, going to be difficult to see where they can make up time then. I don't think, unless a rider really struggles in the final kilometres, anybody, you know, making big changes after this 37 kilometre mark to the finish.
Let's wait for the check time of Fränk Schleck at the second intermediate checkpoint. The gap between Fränk Schleck and Thomas Voeckler this morning was 1 minute and 17 seconds. That's between fourth and third. We need to see if Fränk Schleck can maintain that spot, or will Thomas claw his way back onto the podium of this year's Tour de France. I don't think anybody would begrudge him that, would they? If you put in that sort of performance again today, Sean. Oh, that's a super time for Samuel Sanchez. He is a very good time trial, turning over a big gear. And at the moment, he looks as if he's going to be in the top 5 here. Just going to clip inside. He is. 5th spot for Samuel Sanchez so far. That's interesting. 57.10 for Sanchez at the finish line. And above him, Alberto Contador has 27 seconds advantage. Here is Fränk Schleck, 42.16. It's not going to be enough. 42.16 for Fränk Schleck. He is just 11 seconds down on Thomas Voeckler's time at that point. Sean, he had to make up 1 minute and 17 seconds, Thomas Voeckler. At the moment, by the halfway point, or over the halfway point, he's only made up 11 seconds.
Yes, and again, you know, that point we're looking at the moment, the second point, checkpoint, I think that is where we can really start making the calculation if somebody is going to move up or drop down in the general classification. It is the point of the race where after that I do not see a lot of movement, so it looks like that Thomas Voeckler not making any big inroads, which would be, you know, quite big for him to move up onto the podium.
Yep, he does, as we say, he has to make up 1 minute and 17 seconds, so there had to be a spectacular ride by Voeckler and a spectacular collapse by Fränk Schleck, but it's by no means over yet. It's a good indication there in the middle. This man Contador has taken the second fastest time at the third intermediate checkpoint ahead of De Gent, Samuel Sanchez, Richie Porte, Jean-Christophe Perrault, Fabien Cancellara. Tony Martin, the fastest man at that point, 49.53. Contador at 50.46. He's now riding towards the finish here in Grenoble after 42.5 kilometers. Tony Martin still the fastest. De Gent second at 1 minute and 29 seconds down. Into the last few meters of this time trial for Alberto Contador. He's not going to win. Tony Martin has a time of 55.33, but Contador is going to set the second fastest time at the moment. And pounding up towards the finish. A great time trialist, of course, Alberto Contador, and has really pulled something out of the bag. 56.39 for Contador. Here comes Andy Schleck at the second intermediate checkpoint. This is where we will get our indication. Evans, of course, was second fastest through here with a time of 40.33. Oh, he's lost a packet. 40.33 the time for Evans. And look at this, Sean. Andy Schleck has lost an absolute packet. 42.15 is the time he is down as recording. Tony Martin at 40.26, 40.33 for Evans, 1:45. He's lost 1:39 here. This is Damiano Cunego. This is a good ride by Cunego. The terrain's played into his favour. but it's a very good ride by Damiano Cunego. And I've got to say, what a good Tour de France he's had.
Yes, he's had a consistent Tour de France, and I think going into this time trial, he was always going to be happy with finishing the top 5.
Third intermediate checkpoint. Evans goes through second fastest here as well. At 37 kilometers. Evans goes through 49.55. Blimey, that's 2 seconds slower than Tony Martin. Sean, he could win this time trial.
Yes, well, he knows that he is well up on the Schleck brothers, and especially on Andy Schleck, and the information is being relayed to him, and he's just getting faster and faster, and that's something, you know, the adrenaline start flows, and he's really pushing. We can see there the last shots of Cadel Evans, and the time is telling is just 2 seconds down on Tony Martin, and that is a major performance by Cadel Evans.
57.39 would be 1 minute for Thomas Voeckler. I think he's going to keep his 4th place in this year's Tour de France. 1:45 was what Contador had to make up. Another massively battling performance by Thomas Voeckler. He wants to stay up there. The question is, if Andy and Fränk collapse, is it even possible that he gets to the 3rd step in the podium? A great ride by Voeckler. Over the line in 57.47. He loses 1 minute and 12 seconds to Alberto Contador. Contador will move up, but Voeckler keeps the 4th spot, Sean.
Yes, he will keep the 4th spot, and the question is now the Schleck brothers. You know, how can they finish? Can they, you know, continue on, or will they start losing more? Because as we see Cadel Evans coming in here, he is not going to beat.
Well, is he? Is he? He's got 55.33 is Tony Martin's time. Cadel Evans has been consistently second right the way through. He's not going to take the win, I don't think, but it's a terrific ride. He would have loved to have taken the win. Oh, the Germans love it. Tony Martin has won a stage for Germany here. Cadel Evans finishes 55.40 for Evans. And we await the arrival of Andy Schleck. Cadel Evans is going to be the first Australian to ever win the Tour de France. And if I got up and went down the commentary box now to Matthew Keenan, the Australian commentator who works for ASO, and a schoolboy friend of Cadel Evans, he would probably be with his head on the table in tears. It's been a long time coming, Sean.
Yes, exactly. Haven't he been so close on a number of occasions, and you know, just losing out, and also some mechanical problems. Of course, we see him. He had a crash where it took any chance away from him last year, and you know, this year he's really finished it off well. Had a magnificent tour all the way through. Never had a day where he was in any difficulty, and today he's really put in a blinder of a performance.
Fränk Schleck. Question is, can they keep at bay Thomas Voeckler now? Finished at 57.47, and yes, Fränk Schleck will stay certainly ahead of Thomas Voeckler here, Sean. There's no chance that Voeckler's going to get back on the podium with this man anyway, but there's still Andy to come.
And I think Andy is pretty much in the same time as Fränk. We see in all the checkpoints. I don't think there's going to be a lot in between the two brothers at the final here.
58.14 for Fränk Schleck. 27 seconds separate Fränk Schleck from Thomas Voeckler. Voeckler had to make up a lot more to get onto the podium. Voeckler had to make up well over a minute. And Fränk Schleck will remain certainly in the top 3.
1:13 he would have actually needed. So it's no move for Thomas Voeckler.
No move at the moment. We'll just have to see if Andy has managed to continue at the same sort of pace, same sort of courage required. and the man with number 11 on his back, who came into this time trial saying he was brimming with confidence and they had it in the bag, and a lot of people thought he did have the advantage wearing that yellow jersey and the fact that he'd been strong in the last couple of days. Cadel Evans, though, a mighty ride by Evans to get back to his very best time trialing form, and the weakness of this man in time trialing has paid dearly for him again. It goes to show, if you want to be the winner of the Tour de France, you have to be the best at things all round. And Andy courageously taking the fight to everybody in the last couple of days, Sean, but it's not enough. It's not enough if a man of strength like Cadel Evans can drag it back.
No, it's not enough, and we're concerned when you make the calculations. You look at the time trial abilities of the both riders. Always going to be difficult unless we could see Andy Schleck putting in a real good time trial, and it's not been the case at all today. And of course, it's Cadel Evans just putting in a massive performance here. So yes, Andy Schleck would have needed more time in the mountains to take more time, but we see yesterday on Alpe d'Huez they certainly weren't able to do anything against Cadel Evans. He had it under control, and we see the two Schlecks trying at a moment to see could they put Cadel Evans in difficulty, but not happening.
Andy Schleck, he had a day in yellow, but he won't wear it on the day that counts. The win for this year's Tour de France 2011 goes to Cadel Evans. He's been the bridesmaid, and he's been the bridesmaid again. But this time, he's battled through all the trials, the tribulations, the crashes, the weather, and the incredible difficulty of this year's Tour de France. The most exciting in 30 years to take the win. Andy Schleck finishes 58.11, just inside his brother's time of 58.14. He remains on the podium. But he will not wear that Tour de France yellow jersey tomorrow on the Champs-Élysées at the end, with the Arc de Triomphe in the background at the end of this year's Tour de France. The dawning realization as he comes to a halt that he has lost the Tour de France again.
I was pretty nervous on the last kilometers from Cadel Evans. I had on the first split time a good advantage to him, but then the advantage was getting more and more less, and so I was really nervous. But now I'm really happy and just keep on smiling.
It's your first stage that you won. How can you express these emotions?
Yeah, I think it's for me for a long time the biggest goal to win a stage in the Tour de France, and finally it happened today, and it's a really big day for me.
Cadel Evans, you've just come off the podium to a massive cheer. You're a popular rider at the Tour de France, twice second. You've worked so hard for this your whole career, 15, 20 years. You're world champion. Does this complete your cycling career?
There's always more to go, and we're still got to cross the finish line in Paris tomorrow. That's my main focus right now, actually, getting through there without any trouble. Aldo Sassi said to me last year, he said, now you've won the Worlds, it's you've made yourself a complete rider, but you can win a Grand Tour, and I hope for you it's the Tour de France. Even if you win any Grand Tour, it'll make you a truly complete rider. But I hope he said I hope for you it's the Tour de France, and it was him from the end of, it's a bit of a unofficially it was he who believed in me from October 2001, and never for one day he doubted in my abilities. He never gave up in me, and working went through good and bad, because I've had some bad moments in the last 10 years, but that just makes the good moments even better.
From day one, we only had one ambition, was to keep Cadel out of trouble, keep him in the front, and we did that. We got criticized the first week for doing too much work. Now I think people see why we work so hard. We believed in him, and what he did today was just incredible. I'm very happy.
And the first day of the Tour de France, did you expect that? You hoped.
We hoped, but you never expected. Even at the final kilometers, you still don't know what's going to happen. Okay, you start seeing the times and you get happy, but it's just what happened today isn't amazing, really.
How many Tour de France you won right now as a teammate?
9. Yeah.
Congratulations. Thank you. A record and 9 Tour de France for you.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, congrats. Pardon, on vous sent déçu mais pas abattu finalement.
Je suis battu. Cadel il m'a battu aujourd'hui, mais je suis pas triste, je pense. J'ai fait un grand tour, un beau tour, et le fait d'être demain avec mon frère sur le podium à Paris, ça c'est quelque chose de très 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 spécial, il ne faut pas oublier. Et Cadel, il mérite cette victoire, il faut le dire.
Est-ce qu'il n'y a pas un petit regret de ne pas avoir fait le Dauphiné par exemple avant, et de ne pas avoir reconnu ce parcours?
Moi j'ai regardé d'abord l'étape au Dauphiné à la télévision et j'ai fait tout le parcours ce matin, donc je pense que ça n'avait aucun doute pour moi.
Vous avez les deux frères sur le podium, malheureusement vous aviez dit à la journée de repos un seul, mais à la plus haute marche ce serait mieux. Ça reste un bon tour ou c'est une grosse déception?
Non, ça reste un beau tour, je pense. Bien sûr, on voulait avoir quelqu'un qui gagne, mais on a tout essayé, je pense. Fränk, il s'est sacrifié pour moi. Mais à la fin, Cadel, c'était le plus fort, il mérite.
Yesterday, the Tour de France came down to the 42-kilometre time trial and two men, the yellow jersey Andy Schleck and his rival, Cadel Evans. Evans needed to make back 57 seconds on Andy, and he got that. And he got more, much more.
Cadel Evans is going to be the first Australian to ever win the Tour de France. Andy Schleck, he had a day in yellow, but he won't wear it on the day that counts.
A brilliant ride by Evans, taking 2.5 minutes out of his rival, wrenching the yellow jersey from him, and with it, a Tour victory that 24 hours before had seen Schleck's for the taking. Jubilation then for Cadel and his team, but there are still 95 kilometres to ride this year, stage 21 to Paris. And while for some it will be a parade, for the sprinters, this is the most important stage of all. For having struggled through the Alps, they're ready to go out in a blaze of glory on the Champs-Élysées. Cav has won the last two stages here. Can he get his hat-trick today and claim thus the one prize he's yet to conquer, the green jersey? Find out in the final act of the 2011 Tour de France.
Mark, you're the best sprinter in the world, you've got the best team in the world around you. How exciting is it coming onto the Champs-Élysées with the potential of keeping that jersey?
Pretty nerve-wracking, if I'm honest.
In what way? What are you nervous about?
For most guys today, it's kind of like an easy roll into Paris. We still got all to play for in the green jersey, and anything can happen. So.
It's been a really, really difficult 3 weeks. Tell us about your mood and the mood in the team.
It's all right. We still got a job to do. Like I said, everybody's kind of rolling into Paris. We've got a job to do today.
We're coming up to the intermediate sprint point now. We really need to have a good look at the peloton itself. Remember, 20, 17, 15, 13, 11 and 10 will be taken up by these men as they go through the line this time around. But there are 9 points downwards available. Doesn't seem to be any response from the peloton at the moment, or at least we haven't seen a shot of it.
And the interesting one, I suppose, is with backup here from HTC. That will be interesting. Will they play that card? And it's surprising to see him putting a man up the road, because normally I would expect him to play the waiting game and keep riding on the front. And we can see here they are going to start riding at the moment.
Yeah, they are.
But is this just for the sprint alone? Because we're coming up to the immediate sprint, and the best way to prepare is to get like a Tony Martin, as we can see here with Renshaw leading him out. It's the best way for Cavendish to go about it as he takes it on here, and we can see Rojas a long ways off.
Yep, Rojas is not anywhere near Mark Cavendish. A nice lead out to men. Rojas is trying to come from behind, but nope, Mark Cavendish extends further his lead in the intermediate sprints competition. It's all going to come down to the final sprint, Sean, but it looks to me as though Mark Cavendish is very likely to bring home the green jersey for the first time. The first British rider ever to win the green points jersey in the Tour de France. He's not, however, the first rider from Great Britain to win a points jersey in a Grand Tour. That honour goes to Malcolm Elliott, of course. 1988, he won the points classification and the jersey in the Vuelta a España. 15 seconds now with 6.4k to go. When they come round this time, Sean, they will hear that bell.
Yes, the last lap, as we see the group coming through here. It's still coming down, 15 seconds. If they can continue on riding here, the 5 who are doing all the pulling here, then they should be able to go for another number of kilometres. But if we see somebody attacking, and I'd not be surprised to back, what will he do here? Will he just play the waiting game and wait to see will they be pulled in by the peloton as we come to the final lap with still just around 13 seconds of an advantage.
13 seconds, the bell opposite us here on the finish line. And Quick-Step are still being forced to do the work here. They've done a very good job for Gerard Schierlich. Lampre had done some work before. A lot of looking around. There's a counter-attack going on the right-hand side. It's Carlos Barredo, the man who fell off a little bit earlier. And Barredo is trying to go. Barredo right by the barrage in the centre. He did this, I think, was it last year or the year before? Sean, he attacked on the Champs-Élysées, Carlos Barredo, and tried to get away when riding for Quick-Step.
Well, he attacks so much that is difficult to remember when he went in the attack, and he's a really strong rider. So just right away off the front of the bunch there, the rate they're going with the Quick-Steps really pushing on, you have to be in very, very strong shape.
Just 12 seconds, and now Swift drives on. He's on in that gutter on the right-hand side of the road, the smoothest bit of the tarmac. I'm always amazed that nobody comes a cropper by clipping a pedal on that stuff. Just goes to show what great bike handles they are. Just 8 seconds remain as the breakaway starts to get mopped up one by one by one. Lars Bak it is, Sean, who is now working with Ben Swift. Very interesting.
Yes, it's an interesting one, and Lars Bak seems to think that he has to take the sprint here, because because with Swifty, it's going to be an interesting one. He has been contributing a lot, and we can see here he's just 2 bike lengths off as Lars Bak really tries to ride away on his own.
That's what he's trying to do, and Swift's losing contact here at the moment. Lars Bak is in a very interesting tactic by HTC here. I think that they're just trying to make sure that 45 points is mopped up, Sean.
Well, I think they are in a real good position with Bak here. He's been sitting on, getting carried along. It's a huge advantage, and we see the results of it. He's able to just ride away from Swifty here, and it just proves that sitting on you can conserve that much energy, and it's really to push everybody under pressure now to close down this final, as we can see all the HTC riders appearing at the front.
Yep, there they are. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Very interesting tactics by HTC, beautifully played out, going for the double whammy. Everybody's caught in a cleft stick. They don't know what to do. Do we chase, don't we chase? And it's been left in the end to the perfect lead out of HTC as Ben Swift goes for the guttering again. Lars Bak up ahead. It's a win-win situation for HTC at the moment.
Yes, well, it's a difficult situation at the moment as we're inside the final lap. You can just get crowded out, and if you do not take it up and really set a very fast pace, it's difficult to hold position. I think that's the problem for HTC. They have decided, although they have a man out front, they have to take it up and really make the pace fast here, and they can do it. Of course, they've had a relatively easy ride here compared to normal.
This is Delage, isn't it? Another attack coming from Francis de Jeux in the dying moments of the Jean Miroir is right at the back off the tail here. Lars Bak's continuing to go on his lone quest for a victory with Ben Swift about 20 bike lengths off now. Michael Delage pushing it, and the HTCs are being crowded out on the right hand side of the road at the moment. 3 kilometres to go for Bak. He's got 11 seconds.
Ben Swift ne reviendra pas, il a explosé.
Through this counterclockwise run round the Place de la Concorde for the very, very last time. 2.6 kilometres to go underneath the needle here. Ben Swift is taken back. It's just Lars Bak now. And really, the pace is sky high now, Sean, but it's all over the road at the moment. We have to get into that last corner, do they not? When they come out the Place de la Concorde, it's absolutely about who gets into the last corner. We saw it a couple of years ago where Garmin last year got it totally wrong.
Yes, and HTC are in a bit of difficulty here. We could see they did not want to push it on because they are capable of pushing on at a big rate, but they're just knocking off a bit and allowing Bak to continue as long as possible. I think now we will see them very quickly appearing because they should be really strong here after they're getting an easy ride around the Champs here. So I'd not be surprised if we see him taking up the frame very, very quickly. Surprising if it doesn't happen.
1.8 kilometres with the Belgian national champion and multiple classics winner Philippe Gilbert using all his strength that he can do over these shorter bursts, with Thor Hushovd in second place here, the world champion, getting led around the edge of the quay. It's going to go underneath the tunnel and back into the Rue de Rivoli. We're almost there, Sean. Who's going to win?
Well, it looks like that is going to be a Cavendish finish here. As we can see, HTC just playing the waiting game. Philippe Gilbert riding at a real fast rate. There's nobody moving up left and right. Pretty much a single line here, and that tells me the pace is very high. So HTC are just prepared to wait for the moment.
Down the Rue de Rivoli, we know that Mark Cavendish has the green jersey to play for, and a third consecutive stage win as HTC's Bernard Eisel pushes on the front. Behind, Garmin Cervélo are trying to get themselves in the right position. It's a bit of a chaotic sprint in here as Thor Hushovd drives. He's looking over his shoulder to see where Tyler Farrer is. HTC have got this one really nicely under control at the moment. The final kilometre is underneath.
And Tony Martin takes it up.
Into this final corner, they'll swing left and then right. It's vitally important that they get this one right. Absolutely necessary. I might go for Edvald Boasson-Hagen in this sprint, I think. Just to throw one out there on the left field. So, third back, it's Mark Cavendish in the green points leader's jersey. Where is Rojas? Rojas is not up towards the front here. Not contesting this one. He's not fast enough to be there. Peeling off now, Mark Renshaw takes over for Mark Cavendish with Edvald Boasson-Hagen in the wheel, and behind them is Daniel Oss, the tall Italian rider from Liquigas. So they strike for the line, Edvald Boasson-Hagen and Mark Cavendish. Cavendish has got this one. It's 3 for Cavendish. Cavendish takes the win. A third one in a row, and the green jersey is going to Great Britain. The first man ever to take 3 consecutive stages on the Champs-Élysées. Let's not forget though, the day belongs to that man there. Cadel Evans, the hectic last 5 kilometres are over, and the Australian becomes the first ever Southern Hemisphere rider to take the Tour de France. Well, George Hincapie's been in this position before, congratulating a team captain. What a different type of team, one has to say. Cadel Evans is the winner. Mark Cavendish wins the green jersey and the sprint to boot. Edvald Boasson-Hagen second, Sean, and Greipel, it looks like, is third. Well, it's completely hectic down there on the finish line now. There are reporters everywhere. Let's have a look back at this. Oh, he's working hard for this one, Cavendish. It's that initial kick as he comes out of the wheel of Mark Renshaw. His acceleration, and Boasson-Hagen trying to come up alongside him. Here's that extra acceleration from Mark Cavendish, and he pulls away once again, Sean.
Yes, just that amazing explosion at 150, 100 metres, 180 metres out, and he had such a great lead out. We could see the way they were riding. They were going so fast, his lead out men there, and we could see that everybody was really fighting. Boasson-Hagen came very quickly, but the big burst, he came almost to Mark Cavendish's bracket, but then just went backward from there on.
Certainly did. Got to within a wheel off the back of him. Mark Cavendish, a win in the green jersey, a worthy winner of the jersey. He fought his way through the high mountains. A lot of other riders as well had to resort to the bus. The new rule system for the green jersey seems to have paid off, Sean, as it has done for the mountains classification.
Well, it has paid off for Cavendish, but he's had to work at it majorly and put in a huge effort, and he certainly deserves that green jersey. I think all the sprinters that were in contention and that did contest really for the green jersey classification, it was a difficult classement for them, more difficult because of the new regulation this year.